trads versus populists versus nationalists versus groypers versus Infowar fans, all this stuff. It's all these little fiefdoms. Well, today we have another Things Hidden episode, and this one is going to be another brief one because I want to keep outlining some of the foundational basic points that often, when we're doing our everyday analysis about current events, about news, world affairs, and we pick up audience members along the way because they're interested in our unique applications of our ideas to all these various topics. Sometimes they come along and they don't know some of the terms that we use. So uh, we're going to kind of go back continually and reestablish some of the foundational ideas that we do on this show so that those who are new and those who have been with us that are still confused about some things can be able to catch on to what we're dealing with. And this time, I'm going to use a tweet by a writer at a neighborschoice.com, our website for our news and comment content, named Surat Dasgupta. He tweeted out on May 6th of this year, every issue in the online influencer sphere is a false dialectic. Every influencer is engaged in mimetic envy. Many of them can't stand each other. Most are bought off, look away towards Christ. Now, this is something that we talk a lot about, mimetic desire, mimetic envy. That's something that is foundational to the show. So I thought this is a great tweet to kind of establish some ideas with, particularly as it pertains to online influence. So let's start with the first point. Every issue in the online influencer sphere is a false dialectic. Okay, this false dialectic, in other words, is a false choice. You're presented with two options. Both of them are incorrect. And then you're asked to pick one of these incorrect options because everybody seems to be drawn to one or the other. This is a mimetic pool. People do not like to stand independently and think critically. And oftentimes they're extremely socially pressured to get in the game and pick a side and get to work. Otherwise, you're considered to be irrelevant. So oftentimes people are constantly being pressured by their peers, whether they're online peers or in-person peers, to conform, to stamp down and tamp down on any of their cognitive dissonance that they have with an ideology that's pulling them to join, and to make common cause in the fight against a common enemy. This is a mimetic phenomenon. This is something that we see throughout history. We see it throughout anthropology, and we see it exposed every day in our lives. So what is it that we're being asked to be a part of? We're being asked to pick a side in a constant rivalry, a conflict. But what is it that they're actually fighting over? What are they actually fighting over? Are they fighting over the truth? Or are they fighting over a nihilistic desire for power? And I think, unfortunately, it's the latter most of the time. Mimetic envy is at the heart of what influencers are doing every day. They're constantly jealous of one another. You have different factions fighting over influence, and you have people jealous of other people's influence, and they're constantly vying to see who is going to have more power and more influence. And they're constantly trying to tell you that they alone are the guru that has predicted things and explained things before anybody else. Have you ever noticed that that's exactly what we're most tempted to want to say when we're just saying something publicly, is to say, hey, I was saying this before anybody else? That's mimetic desire, trying to one up our neighbor, to say that, we came up with a position or an idea about something before anybody else did. Therefore, we're the original. This is something that every one of us is tempted with, this desire to try to say that we got something first. You see it with children. I was the first one to like Star Wars. No, I was. No, I was. No, I was. Or I was the first one to get into your favorite anime show when you were a kid or whatever it was, video game. I was the one that was interested in uh, Sega or PlayStation or Nintendo before the others were, and everybody else copied me. Everybody wants to be an originator, and that's the game of the influence world and the influencer world. They're all driven by envy. They're all driven by desire to compete with their rivals. And so, you'll see Alex Jones. He has his view, right? Taking on the globalists. He is battling with other folks in the conservative world. Glenn Beck has his world. Sean Hannity represents kind of the old guard, the baby boomer establishment, the neocons, the traditional old school Mitt Romney type Republicans. Now remember, this dialectic changes. He used to be, there was a time when Sean Hannity represented the extreme right wing and allowable mainstream conservative discourse, and then a Mitt Romney and McCain represented the kind of liberal version. Now that side has been fused together more and more as the same, because they always were the same. They were just, the differences between them were much more seemingly pronounced back when that was the only discourse that was on the game, when TV ruled the world and radio ruled the world without the influence of internet dissent. But mimetic envy is really what fuels people. You are jealous of someone, they become jealous of you. They catch your same jealousy. They catch your same envy. They desire what you have. You have something they want. What is it? Maybe you're measuring your success by being having YouTube followers, and you have less YouTube followers than your rival, whose ideas seem to have more YouTube followers. Even though you might have more Twitter followers than they do, but your desire for YouTube influence makes you forget. It makes you devalue the fact that you have more Twitter followers. And then this stuff is what's going on in the influencer world. Or maybe it's Instagram. Everybody feels like they want to be, if they have models that they want to emulate or surpass, then oftentimes they will measure their own success and achievements based on, where their model is. So if their model is successful in radio, they'll want to have more radio influence. If their model is successful in Instagram, then they'll want to have more Instagram. Even if they have more, again, the model you have might have less followers than you on Rumble or some other platform. It doesn't seem to matter to you because you're obsessed with beating them, and they seem to have success in X platform. And so therefore you want to be on X. Um, and then of course, most are bought off. That's something that's abundantly true, unfortunately, that so many of the folks that make it to a certain threshold of success know how to stay in line to the establishment. I mean, I can't tell you how many folks claim to be such big, real critics of the establishment, and they were totally silent about all of the different nonsense things and lies during the pandemic. Lie after lie after lie. They were quiet. They waited until it was safe, until the herd hit a critical mass of talking about something at once, and then they would come out and say, yeah, that was bad about every component. Every component. I mean, so many of the folks who said they were the most independent were totally wrong, brazenly so, about masks, about the lockdowns. And they said they were anti-state, libertarian, tech bro people, and they were all wrong. And it's okay to be wrong, but it was just amazing how so many people just kept quiet, and they didn't want to say anything, even though they had a little edgy brand. Supposedly, they really just didn't want to ruffle any feathers, get algorithmically, suppressed or what have you, because again, they were more obsessed with beating their rivals than they were about actually doing the right thing. On this show, we still, we had our channels deleted and censored and all this stuff, people attacking our radio station affiliates, all kinds of people were going after us because we were telling the truth every step of the way, starting in March 2020, when nobody was talking about anything outside of the establishment. They were all silenced by the power of the transcendent aura of mimetic conformity. It has its own snowballing effect that's almost irresistible to resist for most folks. And so that's kind of what you see happening there, when you look at the influence game and how it works. that this is something that is really, they'll say, oh, I disagree with someone because they have a different opinion. What's in reality is they're jealous. They want to beat them. But none of that matters. This is all lunchroom drama. Lunchroom drama doesn't get us anything, that doesn't get anything done that actually helps people. It's just about social positioning and different um, rivalries and people wanting to be better than the other. Nothing's actually being done. Nothing actually is being accomplished in all of this. It's all just, as we mentioned earlier, a false dialectic, a false choice. You're supposed to pick a side, even though you know both sides are wrong. Well, this doesn't feel right and that doesn't feel right, but I want to be with these guys, not those people, so I choose this team. And that just doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. They don't offer anything other than, a group tribalism and its loyalties. So envy really does fuel what we see in the online discourse today. People are envious of other people's influence. They're envious of other people's big interview gets. They're envious of other people's access. They're envious of other people's ability to, get invited to the White House or get invited to Mar-a-Lago or get invited to Joe Rogan's show or get a publishing deal. People are, and we all are, right? But the question is, are you aware of that? And are you open about it? Are you self-aware? Do you have the ability to self-examine that? Or are you just totally lying and deluding yourself and those who watch your stuff? And people are always looking to differentiate themselves. They're always looking to come up with excuses as to why they don't like their rivals, when in reality it's just because their rivals are caught up in rivalry with them, and they're vying for power against one another. That's at the heart of what we're dealing with in our influencer world. So something to think about, folks. Mimetic envy is what fuels our influencer world, and I think it's important to call it out, to understand that's what's behind most of what you see when people are fighting over trads versus populists versus nationalists versus groypers versus Infowar fans, all this stuff. It's all these little fiefdoms trying to push up their little avatar. And their little avatar just wants more power and influence over the ones they think have it unfairly more than them. And they don't know what to do. They're like a dog chasing an ambulance. They don't know what to do once they get to it. Or a dog chasing the mailman, I should say. They don't know what to do when they get to it. What happens next? They don't know because they have no vision. Without a vision, they perish. I'm David Gornoski. You can email me hello@aneighborschoice.com. Godspeed.